Hey everybody, how are you? So, I'm going to do something a little bit different today than what I usually do. I've been kind of resisting this for a while because it goes against my nature, but I realize it's something that you've got to do. I am going to do a take. That means I'm going to look into something that happened recently that I got some feelings about, and I'm going to react to it without, doing 15 hours of research beforehand, which is just. It's tough, but bear with me, alright? So what do I want to talk about? I want to talk about Ronna Romney McDaniel. In case you don't know who this person is, she is the niece of Mitt Romney, current senator, guy used to be a candidate for president back in 2012. And his niece, Ronna, was for a certain period of time the chair of the RNC. And her most famous accomplishment, I guess you could say, during that time was attempting to participate in a coup and overturn our democratic system of government. She is scum. She is scum. She is a lying snake who not only has a complete lack of any moral baseline or honor or anything like that, she is such a toady to Donald Trump. She is, well, I'm not going to go down the direction that I was going to go, and there was going to be a lot of bad language in there, but let's just say that she kissed up enough to this guy so much that she changed her own name. She cut the Romney out of her name for years because that guy, Trump, had an argument with her uncle who had the misfortune of being a man of some actual moral decency. So, of course, he was kicked right the hell out of Trump world. And that's the kind of person Ronna is. Now, unfortunately, for Ronna at least, what she has sacrificed her soul, her legacy, her reputation for is a movement that doesn't give a shit about her. Trump is incapable of loyalty. He does not care about anyone who supports him, no matter their level of sacrifice or the degree to which they're willing to base themselves before him. You can see this, look at the trail of devastation he's left behind him among the people closest to him. He tried to have his own vice president hung on the Capitol steps. All his supporters were cheering, and Giuliani, his lawyer, who used to be America's mayor, whose reputation is now in the utter crapper because of all the crimes that he's done, and whose bills Trump won't even pay, like actual legal bills that he has owed to Giuliani for work that Giuliani did on his behalf. Trump ain't paying him because he's not useful anymore. So, a relatively similar thing happened to Ronna once she became no longer the most convenient figurehead for Trump at the Republican National Convention. She was booted out of there. Right, real quick. No memory of all that she had done for them. No one cared. Trump wanted a more pliable, more malleable person in that office, and I mean, it's hard to imagine someone that was more pliable, especially morally, than Ronna, but Trump managed to find one in the case of his own daughter-in-law. For God's sake. That the Republican National Convention is now under the control of some girl, Laura Trump, who has no experience in any of this field, but is just a sycophant to the Trump name. And of course, that's how mobsters work. They like to put their family members in places so that they know that they would be loyal, regardless of whether or not they're qualified. But that's not really what I'm here to talk about Ronna's time in the RNC. I want to talk about what happened after. Because NBC News, for some, well, I'm not going to say unfathomable, I know why they did it. It was for access and for views and clicks and whatnot. They decided to hire this person, to give a platform to a person who is a known liar of the highest order. That what she lied about, it wasn't some petty bullshit like all the politicians do. She lied about an election. She lied about a coup. She continued to lie about it. And right now, at a time when our media is frankly in crisis, when trust in the media is at a critical low, that the executives at NBC decided now would be the time to bring on this con woman and to pay money to this con woman and to give the imprimatur of their reputation to this con woman. Now, thankfully, they've seen a degree of sense and got rid of her after basically everyone, every reporter on the staff was like, hey, this is insane. But it brings to mind a bigger issue that our media has failed us. And I hate to say this, I don't like getting into this stuff because a lot of people talk about this, how, oh, the media this, the media that, and a lot of that is done in bad faith. A lot of the criticisms of the media, in fact, the biggest, I guess you could say, criticisms of our media and the degradation of people's trust in it has been done in bad faith. It's being done by people like Ronna McDaniel, who basically was attacking the reputation of every single journalist who tried to hold her to account during her term at the RNC. And it seems that our media is just not prepared for these times. Well, I don't know if that's right. I don't know if it's that they're not prepared, or rather that they are choosing not to be prepared. Because what they are doing... I'm not going to talk like a Trumpist and say that these people are lying all the time. That's not true. But they are playing these games with people in order to try to appear fair, appear balanced, what have you. Just like, CNN did when they brought on Trump for his town hall, where he re-defamed the woman, E. Jean Carroll, who he had already defamed and raped. Why are they doing this? Why are they bringing on these people and giving a platform to these people? And there are excuses, there are explanations that the media organizations attempt to give. That, these people have a huge role in our politics, that we cannot ignore them. And that's true, you cannot ignore them. But that doesn't mean that you have to give them a platform either. And there is a way to bring these people onto the air and yet still hold them to account. It is actually possible to fact-check these people in real time. And I'm furious that the media keeps constantly acting like this is some impossible freaking task. Like we're asking them to, I don't know, construct a freaking pyramid with one hand or something. It's bullshit. It is eminently doable. So, just as an example of that, goddamn me for doing this, but I made an account on Truth Social. And I took one of Trump's tweets, or whatever, truths, Jesus, the irony of that, the irony of calling this a truth, but whatever, Trump is immune to irony. So I took one of these messages, and I'm going to show you how to fact check it in real time. Firstly, I'm going to put it up on the screen. I'm going to read it in my attempt to do a Trump voice. I mean, basically everyone in media is having to practice their Trump voice, but let me give it a go. So, let's read that text message. I'm not running to terminate the ACA, as crooked Joe Biden disinformates and misinformates all the time. I'm running to close the border, stop inflation, make our economy great, strengthen our military, and make the ACA, or Obamacare as it is known, much better, stronger, and far less expensive. In other words, make the ACA much, much, much better for far less money or cost to our aggressed American citizens who have been decimated by Biden, his record inflation, bad economy, Afghanistan catastrophe, and just about everything else. Crooked Joe Biden is by far the worst president in the history of the United States. MAGA 2024. Alright, everybody, we're back now. So, I hope you all managed to tolerate my impression, and, you could see right there, firstly in the video, the non-stop wave of loony capitalization, the constant spelling mistakes, just words like, what the hell is disinformate? That's not a word. It's Joe Biden. What is a aggressed American? Am I aggressed American? It's bullshit, but of course, beyond just the spelling, let's take a look at the actual claims made in this. And I'm fact-checking this, by the way, with no prior research. I didn't prepare for this. I didn't, go crazy finding out every possible thing that's happening here. This is just from my general paying attention to what is going on and making an active attempt to engage with what this, I guess you could call him a person, this gaping anus is saying. So, I'm not running to terminate the ACA. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. That's what the Republican Party has been trying to do now for years, ever since the ACA came about. And thank goodness that the heroic John McCain, before he finally left us as one of his final actions, preserved the ACA from these people. Leaving aside the crooked Joe thing that he's saying all the time, Joe Biden is not crooked. He is not engaged in any sort of criminal activity. The Republican impeachment catastrophe, where they did not manage to get one solitary witness to credibly state that Biden committed any kind of crime. You can literally watch their hearings, where AOC, for example, goes to the witnesses and says, do you have any evidence of Joe Biden committing a crime? Okay, do you have any evidence of Joe Biden committing a crime? And they all say no. This being asked of the witnesses that Republicans brought to the House, to the chamber, in order to supposedly talk about Joe Biden's non-existent criminality. Leave aside the fact that the only two witnesses that they actually got to say that Joe Biden committed any crime at all, one was a Chinese spy and the other one was a Russian spy, who was already being under investigation by the FBI, which the Republicans knew at the time. So, leave aside that. Moving on, I'm running to close the border. Bullshit. He just stopped us from closing the border. The bill that Langford put together that had provisions for the border, all security provisions, by the way, nothing for the Democrats, nothing for the, the Dreamers or anything like that, nothing there. It was just enforcement stuff, combined with the Ukraine and the Israel funding. He blocked that. He blocked that because he would rather the issue than a solution, so that he can campaign on that issue. So, strengthen our military. Bullshit. He's trying to pull out of NATO. He's trying to distance us from all of our allies, and that weakens us. That weakens us on the world stage. It weakens our ability to negotiate with allies and adversaries. For example, the fact that we are not supporting Ukraine currently. We made a promise to Ukraine back in the 90s that in exchange for their weapons of mass destruction, their nuclear weapons that they had after the Cold War and the collapse of the Soviet Union, in exchange for their stocks of Soviet nukes, we swore with an official, an official, like, Budapest Memorandum, a real thing. We swore that we would protect their territorial integrity based on the 1991 borders, and because of that, the Ukrainians gave up their nukes. Let's say that sometime in the future, maybe the North Korean regime topples and is replaced by someone else, and they say, hey, we have China on our borders over here. Maybe you can take all of this nuclear material that Kim Jong-un has been hoarding, and in return protect us from the Chinese, huh? Now we cannot make that deal. Because they would say, why would we trust you? Why? Why would we work with you? So, moving on. Now he's saying, again, make the ACA or Obamacare, as known, much better, stronger, and far less expensive. How? How? This guy was sitting in office talking about this shit For 4 years, he was talking about replacing the ACA with something better, just like as he was doing an infrastructure week every other week, without ever proposing any sort of plan or any sort of details as to how he's going to do this. Just somehow magic it out of his ass. God knows it's big enough that there's probably half a dozen miracles in there. So that's all BS. Again, Grest American citizens, just bad spelling, and who have been decimated by Biden, his record inflation, bad economy. Okay, our inflation is the lowest of all the G7 nations. Biden managed to tackle inflation, which was a global problem, brought it down faster than any other advanced economy in the world, while simultaneously providing the fastest rate of economic growth of any advanced economy in the world, the highest rate of wage growth, surpassing the rate of inflation for the first time in 60 years. Leave aside the record infrastructure investment, leave aside that, like I said, Trump kept promising, which we never got. Leave aside the fact that the United States is currently putting out more oil production and is more energy independent than it ever has been. Leave aside the fact that we have the tightest labor market in decades. It's just everything Trump says is bullshit. Next, he goes on to the Afghanistan catastrophe. The Afghanistan catastrophe, which was originally caused by Trump refusing to make any sort of negotiations whatsoever with the Afghanistan government when he was in office. He instead decided to talk directly to the Taliban. He ignored the Afghans. He tried to make a side deal with the Taliban because for Trump, it's a lot easier and a lot more comfortable to make deals with dictators and terrorists like Kim Jong-un and Putin and all of those people. And he pulled our troops out of Afghanistan without any sort of idea or plan to make sure that this country would not instantly collapse into the hands of the Taliban. Now, what he did was handing Biden a shit sandwich. Admittedly, Biden didn't do anything to make that shit sandwich any more fragrant, let's say, but he is not the core of the blame for this problem. And finally, just, to finish it all up, he says, crooked Joe Biden is by far the worst president in the history of the United States. So there was recently, this got some trending in the news, there was a poll that came out among the most serious academic scholars of presidential history in the United States, and Trump was put last. And I don't think that's surprising. Leave aside the rampant criminality, leave aside the attacks on our institutions, leave aside the fact that he has destroyed faith in our political system, leave aside the fact that he constantly encourages violence, leave aside the fact that he quotes Hitler on a regular basis. He did a coup, people. He did a coup. And this, what I just did, that's it. That's the whole tweet, right? That's not hard. That was not hard, okay? I didn't need time, I didn't need, extra resources, what have you. That's me sitting here. And if I were to do an interview with someone like Trump or one of any of these people, I'd rip their freaking heads off. And it's not a difficult thing to do, because these people are clownish liars, whose stories are internally inconsistent, who have no evidence to back up the things that they are saying, who are just making shit up. And the fact that our media somehow sees this as an impossible task to deal with people who are just spewing nonsense. Like, what if you brought on a flat earther? You just come on and say, oh, the earth is flat. Pull up your phone, take a picture from a satellite, show them it's not flat. It is not rocket science. And I think that the media has gone too far in their degree of both sidesing things. It's interesting because I deal with a lot of conservative people. I talk to a lot of MAGA people. A lot of these people are my family, a lot of these people are my friends. I have these conversations all the time, and of course I try to make them less confrontational than if I was dealing with, an actual MAGA politician or something like that, because I recognize that, these people have been lied to, and it's not entirely their fault that they believe or say the things that they are saying. It's coming from the politicians and from the Fox News people and all of this. But they are constantly of the impression that the media is just brutally biased against Trump. That's a lie. That is not true. It is not in any way demonstrably true. In fact, the opposite is demonstrably true. Leave aside the fact that, everyone's saying on social media that conservatives have some sort of disadvantage. Actually, there have been studies showing that conservative misinformation and disinformation, by the way, that's how you say it, not misinformate and disinformate, spreads faster because, as a rule, lies tend to spread faster than the truth. But there's no evidence of this. Moreover, leave aside the fact that one of the major media platforms, Twitter, now known as X, because Elon Musk is like a 12-year-old boy and named his own kid AEX12 and thinks putting an X on everything somehow makes you cool. He's a right-wing propagandist. He's regularly retweeting things that are literally Nazi propaganda, like saying that Jews are responsible for creating dialectical racism against white people. It's Nazi propaganda. And what he is allowing on his platform is Nazi propaganda. And it is directly a propagation service for what is essentially Nazi propaganda. Leave aside all of that. Leave aside the fact that the largest cable news channel in the United States is Fox News, which is a venue for more of this propaganda. Leave aside the fact that the majority, or no, I believe the plurality of local news stations in this country is run by a right-wing nut job. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's also like a Rupert Murdoch type figure who bought up all the local news stations in America, or again, a plurality of them, and is using that to spread right-wing nonsense as well. Even when we're looking at supposedly lefty media, like anything that isn't Fox News, basically, including New York Times or CNN or what have you, yes, they're going to be largely against Trump. And there's a reason for that. It is because if you follow facts, you are going to be against Trump. There is no way to support Trump without either lying purposefully or unknowingly repeating other lies. There are people who support him sincerely because they are believing lies that other people have told them. The way that the media seems to cover this guy, it's insane. I remember we had an instance several weeks ago where two things happened within a relatively close proximity of each other. One is that Biden was eating an ice cream. He happened to be going from somewhere to another, and a reporter kind of grabbed at him and asked him a question while he was in the middle of the ice cream, and it was about the Gaza situation, and Biden said something about a ceasefire, and everyone was freaking out. It was like on the front page of every goddamn paper that Biden disrespects Gaza by eating ice cream or something like this, despite the fact that, again, the reporter had just grabbed him out of nowhere while the guy was trying to eat something. Roughly that same week, it came out that this Alexander Smirnov guy, Smirnov, for God's sakes, what a name, that this guy who had been the centerpiece of the Republicans' impeachment inquiry into Biden, who was supposedly their main special source, that he provided that 1023 form that's saying that Biden was being offered bribes. He is a spy, he is a spy, an actual spy handling Russian misinformation, lies given to him directly from the Russian government to feed to the United States government. And that Republicans were propagating this, and moreover, that they knew that that is what they were doing. Because the FBI, the reason that they would not release that 1023 form, is because it contained information that the FBI knew to be false. that the form that the Smirnov, what he had said was that Hunter Biden had been to Ukraine on certain dates and times when the FBI knew that he had not. And that this was told to the members of Congress, including Comer and all of them, all of the people who have been into, most forcefully propagating this story. All of those people who are at the top of this, they knew that what they were saying was Russian disinformation. So we have, on the one hand, guy eats ice cream on the Democratic side. On the other hand, on the Republican side, we have cooperate with foreign agent to try to destabilize the United States president, which is, as I see it, a hair's way away from treason, what they did. And in the media, these are covered as equivalently major stories. Ice cream and treason. And that this seems to happen all the time. I'm not sure exactly why this is occurring. I have ideas, I have guesses. I think that part of it is the novelty aspect, that because of the way that the incentives are set up in our media, that new is what they go for. Not necessarily newsworthy, but just new and exciting. And because Democrats tend to just do their jobs, and govern and things like that, the ice cream is what you have to focus on. Whereas with Republicans, you cannot go a day without Trump saying something that would be career-ending for any other politician without talking about, I don't know, calling people poison in the blood of our country or things like this, or some other Hitler-esque propaganda, or else putting out lies that are so Looney Tunes that it's beyond comprehension, space lasers type nonsense, and that we have gotten used to this as kind of the background noise from the Republican side, and maybe that's why. I don't know. But that doesn't mean that it's right to proceed this way. It's insane to proceed this way. And our democracy hinges on it. And unless the media at large can learn to maintain the most basic modicum of integrity, it's critical to our democracy. And that's why I am so pissed off by them selling away their dignity and their reputation to get a little bit of credit with the other side by hiring someone like Ronna McDaniel, who, again, thankfully they got rid of, or by providing Trump, for example, a platform without really fact-checking him. They think that they're trying to play both sides, that they're trying to appeal to the MAGA viewer. They are not. Because the MAGA viewer does not care what CNN or NBC or any of them do. They're not going to be watching that. It wouldn't matter even if all of these platforms suddenly decided to, I don't know, fully go along with a big lie or something like that, of the 2020 election being stolen. They're not going to pay attention. They do not care. In the minds of the average MAGA voter, NBC and CNN is like a hell pit. They would never turn their eyes to such a thing. So, to sacrifice the last fringes of one's reputation for this nonsense, for this transparent play at access, is disgusting and dangerous and stupid. And that at some point they have to learn. But I do not know, frankly, if they will. Because the incentives in our media ecosystem are not towards that. They are not in that direction. Because the media likes to say that they are the guardians of truth, and that they are the fifth estate, that they are performing this vitally important function of truth-telling, and that is their purpose. That's not true in our system. It is not. The purpose of the media is to be a profitable news organization, to make money. That's just how our system is constructed. These are for-profit companies. And I don't mean to shoot them out entirely, because it is true that most media companies do not lie. They try to tell the truth. They do not lie like Fox News. They do not lie like Breitbart or OAN or any of this. They have their views and they make mistakes and what have you, but they usually retract that. They can be decent on these things. But the choices that they make in terms of what to pay attention to, or who to flatter, or who to platform, or how to cast light on certain things, these decisions are being made not with a viewpoint that our main goal is to accurately inform the American people, but that accurately informing American people is like a side thing that they kind of have to do while their main goal is making money. And I really don't know if that's the kind of system that can be relied upon. You know, we have, in response to this, a lot of new media entities, I guess you could say, coming out. We have things like I always talk about. I watch a lot of Midas Touch. I watch a lot of Bulwark. Great stuff. I think they're honest. And thank God that they're able to, finance themselves by telling the truth. But the fact is that they could also finance themselves by telling bullshit, like they do on the Daily Wire, for example. Either of these are both, equally successful profit-making models. And if anything, the bullshit profit-making model is actually likely to be more successful, because you're just giving people what they want. And this media environment, as it currently exists, I just don't see them being up to the task, frankly. And it's sad and it pisses me off, but that's the kind of world that we live in. That's the kind of world we're going to have to deal with. And that's the kind of world where we individually are going to have to, individually and together, are going to have to find a way to muddle through, essentially, and find a way to reach the truth. Because despite all the bullshit, I've been negative for the last little while, it is not that hard. It is possible if you are rigorous, if you are checking your own biases, if you are thorough. It is possible to figure out what the truth is, and it is, in fact, not super duper difficult. The truth is there right in front of you. It just takes time and it takes some effort, and it is possible. It is possible. It can be done. I think I do it pretty well. So hopefully, hopefully NBC will get their act together. Hopefully all of these news agencies will get their act together, but I doubt it. And hopefully that doesn't lead to the collapse of our democracy. Yeah, that's about it. Good luck, everyone. Tell the truth and vote. Till next time.